Hey, this is Jamie with Stonemaier Games, and as I do every 6 months, today I'm going to be talking about my top 10 favorite games right now. And the right now part of that is particularly relevant for this video because normally I pick the games that I am the most excited to play, but I consider years of playing games as I make that decision. And that's kind of happening today, but I wanted to really focus on the games that I've actually been able to play and enjoy over the last 6 months, which have been a very weird 6 months. We've been in the middle of a pandemic, so I haven't been able to play games in person with people very much at all. A lot of my games have been over Zoom, and fortunately over Board Game Arena, where I can access a lot of those middleweight Euro games that I enjoy. And a lot of my play has been two-player. So my enjoyment is impacted by Megan's enjoyment. If she's not having fun with a game, I'm probably not having fun either, even though I might really enjoy that game with other people. So all those factors go into this list. It's going to be a little bit of a weird list. There are a few cheats in this list. Let's jump right in. First, I should mention the honorable mentions are Watergate, Lords of Waterdeep, Clans of Caledonia, Air, Land, and Sea, Sagrada, and Can't Stop. Can't Stop is kind of a weird one on this list, but they have a great, just light, fun filler implementation on Board Game Arena that I really enjoy. So let's jump right into the top 10 list. Oh, and obviously, I run Stonemaier Games. There are going to be no Stonemaier games on this list, even though I very much enjoy the games that we produce and publish, and the games that I design. My number 10 game on this list is Architects of the West Kingdom. This is a brilliant implementation of an innovative worker placement game where you start with a ton of workers, and as you place workers on actions, you get better benefits depending on how many of your other workers are there. But if you place too many workers there, it's going to be tempting for another player to go in there and arrest all the workers, which sounds like a terrible thing. It actually isn't that bad. It's a little annoying when it happens, especially if you're counting on that action, but it still feels really good to ramp up on an action like that. There are lots of different paths to victory. I love the reputation track and how it can impact the actions that you can choose in the game. I like the idea of building the cathedral, obtaining new characters that influence your play, getting the building cards. It's a brilliant game. And even as I'm talking about it, I'm like, this could have been easily been higher up on this list because I enjoy it so much. That is Architects of the West Kingdom, my number 10 favorite game right now. My number 9 favorite game right now is one that I don't own. I played this a lot on Board Game Arena, and that is Russian Railroads. Russian Railroads has something that I really enjoy about my game, Tapestry, which is that you start out in the first round scoring just a few points, but in the last round, you might score hundreds of points. There's a huge element of progression and ramping up over the course of the game. I love in Russian Railroads the worker placement. The worker placement itself is kind of simple, but it's just really well done, really well calculated. You're deciding how many workers to put on a variety of different actions, and each action can only be used once each round. So you're saying, okay, do I want to put one worker on this action and get a small benefit, or put 2 workers there and get a better benefit per worker, but then I've already used 2 workers there. So you're deciding how you want to allocate those workers. And I love the tracks in this game. If you haven't played Russian Railroads, it is not it's not like a Ticket to Ride style train route building game. There's no routes that you're building. Rather, you're just improving 4 different engines, 4 different locomotives, and they are essentially tracks, but you're not building them. You're just advancing along them with a variety of different tokens that you can level up to other tokens along the way, scoring better, getting better benefits, unlocking different things. I love order of operations in games, and that's a huge part of Russian Railroads. Like, do you advance on this track early and unlock this thing, and that impacts these other things, or do you advance on a different track and trigger, like, when you might trigger a big benefit in the game matters for how you deal with all the other tracks. Just a wonderful game. I love Russian Railroads. That's why it's my number 9 game on this list. My number 8 favorite game right now is one that was on this list for years and then dropped off because no one really wanted to play it. And now it is back because I love the Libertalia implementation on Board Game Arena. It's such a simple game. Every player starts with the same 9 cards out of 30. They're 9 randomly determined cards, but all players start with the same 9 cards. And on your turn, there are really no turns. It's simultaneous selection. You're choosing one of those cards to play, putting it face down, and then all players reveal the card at the same time. And those they're pirates that end up on a ship in a specific order depending on the numbers on those cards. The cards are numbered 1 through 30. And they have different benefits that trigger as you trigger them left to right, and then you gain booty or loot. I think it's called booty in the game. You're gaining that from right to left if your character's still left on the boat. There are daily benefits that you're getting as long as your character remains in your section of the game, in your hand. Well, not your hand, but your play area, your tableau. And then there's end of round abilities that you get if your character is still in your tableau as well. Just a broad cast of characters, a lot of personality to the characters in this game, and I love the simultaneous play. And it's, even though there's a lot of interesting decisions in the game, there's also a lot of fun interaction, and it's not spiteful interaction for the most part. While you can directly interact with the player on either side of you, your neighbors, but there's also non-targeted interaction in terms of how your characters activate when they're on the boat. Just a wonderful game. I love it. Libertalia, super easy to teach too. Really easy to teach and play. And Board Game Arena has a great implementation of it. That's my number 8 favorite game right now. My number 7 favorite game right now is a bit of a cheat. There are 2 games that I found that I really, really enjoy playing on Zoom when I need to have something that's satisfying for me, but also very light and easy to teach and play. And it can the length of the game can vary based on what we need. And so I'm saying 2 games. These are 2 completely different games, but they are 2 wonderful games to play on Zoom. One is the cooperative game Just One, and the other is the competitive push your luck game Incan Gold. So I am placing both of these games at number 7. I know that's a total cheat because they're completely different games, but these are 2 wonderful games that I've played on Zoom quite a bit over the last few months and enjoyed the play despite how much I've played these and taught these over that course. This is kind of a run into a dungeon and grab some treasure, some gems, and get out if you can make it, and stay in the dungeon as long as possible, or surprise everyone by running out at the key time and grabbing a treasure, grabbing extra gems that were left behind. Just One is a cooperative game where you are cooperating to help one player each turn guess a word by giving them a one-word clue that can't be duplicated by the other players who are also giving one-word clues. I love cooperative games in this style where there's a little bit of limited communication, but that limited communication is really important to the game itself. Hopefully I mentioned this game on my recent list about cooperative games without quarterbacking. I sure hope I didn't forget to put this on there. I'm going to check after this video. But Just One, Incan Gold, these 2 are both my number 7 favorite games right now. And I'm going to set Just One aside to remember to check that, because I really hope I didn't forget that for that other list. That's number 7. My number 6 favorite game right now is Terra Mystica. Terra Mystica is another one that I actually played for a long time, many games of it when it originally came out, and played for years, and then it fell off a little bit, but it's back on Board Game Arena, and I've been playing a lot of games on Board Game Arena. I love the asymmetry in this game. I love the meaty decisions, the sense of progression, and the player mats in Terra Mystica have influenced multiple of my games where you're pulling something off the mat and increasing your power, your income, something about what you're doing. Based on what you're pulling off the mat and putting on the board. I love that mechanism of exposing actions on a player mat and improving your situation. And Terra Mystica has a ton of other wonderful things. I love the magic system in the game, how you're moving this power from one pool to the other and waiting for it to get to the one pool where you can actually spend it. And most of all, I think I love the asymmetry. That's one of the reasons I've come back to the game time after time. I absolutely love the asymmetry in Terra Mystica. That's why that is my number 6 favorite game right now. My number 5 favorite game right now is Glen Chronicles. This is Glen Chronicles, the second version of Glen that is just, it's a wonderful game. It has a ton of my favorite mechanisms, including the idea of one-way time tracks, one-way worker placement time tracks, where you're putting a worker on a track, in this case it's on tiles, and claiming that tile, and it is your turn if you are the furthest player back on that track. So you can jump ahead, way ahead, and grab a tile that you really want, but if you do, you're giving other players additional tiles and additional turns. At the same time, Glen 2 balances this because at the end of the game, you will compare the number of total tiles you have in your Glenmore area, your tableau, to the player with the fewest tiles in their tableau, and you'll lose points if you have a lot more tiles than them, or you'll lose points for every tile more than the number of tiles they have. So it's not necessarily a game where you want more tiles. It's a game where you're trying to choose the best tiles to score the most points. I love that when you place a tile into your tableau, it triggers a benefit on that tile and all of the tiles around it. So every time you place a tile, it feels really good. You're getting all these benefits. It has a very awesome economical system in the middle of the game, or economy in the middle of the game, where you can acquire stuff that you need at any time during your turn, or even sell stuff for coins that equate to points at the end of the game when you have extra stuff to spend or to sell. And I also love I mentioned this comparison at the end of the game of number of tiles that you have compared to another player. That comparison for other elements of the game happens at the end of each round. It happens for the number of whiskey barrels you have, the number of castles you have, the number of, I'm forgetting the two things, but there are 4 categories where you're comparing yourself to the player with the fewest things, which makes it really hard for any player to really run away with it because they're always doing that comparison. But it also gives you a reason to pay attention to the other players and pay attention to what they're accumulating so that you don't fall too far behind, or that you jump ahead of them to the right amount to score the maximum number of points for that category. So many clever things in this game, and I'm saying all this, but it is not a complicated game. It is very easy to teach and set up and learn. Maybe setup is probably the hardest part about it, but it's even not that complicated. Lot to love in Glenmore 2. Really, really love this game. My number 5 favorite game right now. My number 4 favorite game right now is one that I actually just played the other day on Board Game Arena, but I also own a copy because I love it so much, and that is Tzolk'in. This is probably the heaviest game that I truly love, that I keep returning to over and over again. And it has this wonderful time optimization element to it that I also love about Pendulum, our newest game. The games are very similar in this aspect in that you are placing a worker, and depending on how good the benefit is, it corresponds to how long the worker's on that action. So you might put a worker on this resource dial, and you might leave them on there for 5, 6, 7 turns and wait to pull it off to gain a really powerful benefit based on that timing of when you pull it off. I love that idea of this game, that you're either placing workers or pulling off, and you're deciding when to pull them off to gain the maximum benefit for you. There's tons of elements of progression about this game. That's why I really love it. A lot of things. There are some slight punishing elements, but a lot of it just feels good because you're getting better and better stuff throughout the game. You're getting better stuff on the dials. You're advancing on this tech track. You're getting on these temple tracks. You're getting better stuff. You're getting these tiles that give you better stuff. Everything is about getting better and better stuff, and it just feels so good as you're playing it. I have played the expansion a number of times as well. The expansion is really solid. I love the asymmetry added by the factions, but I am perfectly happy playing the core game on Board Game Arena forever because I really, really love the game, and I hope to get back to playing this version of the game, the original, the tabletop version of the game with multiple players when I'm able to do so because I love this game so much. That's Tzolk'in, my number 4 favorite game right now. All right, we're getting into a new game, I think a new game for this list, and that is Azul Summer Pavilion. While this game has no real theme to it, there is a story behind it, but it's compared to some of these other games that have a strong theme to it, this is very abstract, but it is so delightful and colorful and beautiful, and it feels so good to play. The entire game is almost explained on the back of the box, that I love playing Azul Summer Pavilion. I love introducing it to new people. I have a great time playing it 2-player with Megan, and I also love playing it with 3 or 4 players. It's just a wonderful game. The thing that I think makes this game stand out from other Azuls is that it is very rewarding. It's very flexible. You can actually keep tiles from round to round. You are rarely losing points in the game. You're almost always moving forward and getting better and better stuff. And there are also completion bonuses. So at certain times, you might complete certain areas of the board. I don't know if there's an example back here. Not really. So you're drafting tiles, that's awesome, but you're also completing areas of your mat that let you gain extra tiles when you complete them. So you're not only getting more points as you play the game, and you get points as you play, in addition to points at the end of the game, but you're also gaining more tiles at certain times because you've achieved these little goals throughout the game, or even kind of, the game has like short-term goals, mid-term goals, and long-term goals. Has everything. It is a wonderful abstract game, and just a wonderful game to play in general. Azul Summer Pavilion, my number 3 favorite game right now. My number 2 favorite game right now, I think, is also new to this list, and this is Shards of Infinity. This is a game that I learned and played for the first time competitively via the app. And I love the app so much, and I wanted to play it with Megan, but in person. So I bought the game, which is not expensive at all. It's actually up to 4 players, I believe, but I like playing it with 2 players. It is a deck building game where you just have an array of amazing, fun choices based on the cards that you're acquiring. with my favorite element, my favorite twist to that being that not only are you trying to gain cards to reduce your opponent's life, like Star Realms, but you are also acquiring cards that give you mastery. And mastery, as you gain more mastery, actually makes the cards you play better. If you have like level 5 mastery, it might make a card might say, okay, at level without mastery, you gain, you do 1 damage with this card. But once you get to 5 mastery, you deal 3 damage. And if you get to a certain level of mastery, you can deal infinite damage, which means that you can take a strategic path where you just ignore dealing damage to your opponent on an ongoing basis and just try to level up your mastery as fast as possible, which is harder than it seems. This mastery decision also adds to other decision points in the game because on your turn, you always have the option, 1 time per turn, of spending one of the resources, I think they're crystals, 1 crystal to gain 1 mastery. And so instead of looking at the card row, and so if say on a turn you have 4 crystals to spend, normally in a game like this, you might look at the card row and you might focus only on the cards that have 4 crystals, and you might say, okay, I'll buy one of these cards that has 4 crystals because I have 4 crystals to spend right now. With mastery in play, or with this option to spend 1 of those crystals to gain 1 mastery, suddenly that really opens up the decision space, and that you're not only looking at the 4 crystal cards, but also the 3 crystal cards, because you're thinking, okay, if there's a pretty good 3 crystal card out there, I might get it because I can spend that extra crystal that I have on a mastery. I love that decision point. Now I need to add to this that Megan and I more enjoy the cooperative version of this game. It has a wonderful short cooperative campaign called Shadow of Salvation. This is an expansion pack that's also not very expensive that you can then play fully cooperatively against a variety of villains who have their own kind of shuffle building decks. They shuffle 2 decks together, or maybe 3 decks together to form these villains that you play against. And we found this to be a ton of fun. So I love playing competitively on the app, but in person with Megan, I really, really enjoyed the cooperative version of Shards of Infinity. It has an awesome, awesome cooperative version, especially if you're playing with a couple right now and you're looking for a great cooperative game. I highly recommend this. Shards of Infinity, I've talked a lot about it now. It is my number 2 favorite game. Loving it. A really, really amazing game. My number 1 favorite game is a total cheat here. You can call me out on it, but I am going to put it out there. Because I couldn't remove one of these games from the list, and they're intrinsically connected. I'll just say what they are, and I'll explain what's happening. My number 1 favorite game right now is both 7 Wonders and 7 Wonders Duel. Now, I know that's a weird combination because these are different games. They have completely different mechanisms. There are some interconnected mechanisms, but for the most part, they're completely different. 7 Wonders Duel is an amazing tug-of-war, push your luck, oh, not push your luck game, I cut you choose game where you have this pyramid of cards and you are choosing 1 card from that pyramid that's fully exposed. And in doing so, you're exposing more cards that were underneath it. So this is the drafting mechanism for 2 players in this game. This game also has instant win conditions. You can win instantly if you get to a certain space on the military track. You can win instantly if you get your research up to a certain level. And if you don't, at the end of the game, you just score points based on the end of the game. I love games that have that element to it. And we love playing 7 Wonders Duel together. At the same time, I really do enjoy 7 Wonders, but I found that it is just a wonderful filler game on Board Game Arena. So I couldn't leave it off this list because I found so many times where we finish a game and we have like 10 more minutes and someone says, why don't we play 7 Wonders real quick on Board Game Arena? I'm talking about my virtual game nights here. And I'm in. Like I have so much fun playing 7 Wonders, making that drafting decision of which card am I going to keep for myself and which cards am I going to pass to the other players. And it's a very rewarding game. You're not getting hurt in the game unless you are not militarily strong. But you're just acquiring better stuff and getting better and better throughout the game. I love rewarding games, as you can tell from this list. And 7 Wonders just feels rewarding. And in a drafting way, is even more satisfying because every game is going to feel a little bit different based on the cards that you have in your hand and the cards that you pass to the players and the cards that you receive from those players. So I had to put both these games on this list at number 1, 7 Wonders and 7 Wonders Duel. I enjoy them for different reasons, but they are so closely connected, even though they are different games, that I wanted to feature them as my number 1 game right now. That's my list. A weird list to make at a weird time in the world. This list might be very different if the world opens up a little bit and I can play more games with friends, multiplayer games over the next 6 months, but we'll see what happens. For now, this is my top 10 list. I'd love to hear your thoughts on games on this list, or if you have a top 3 list of games that you have enjoyed over the last 6 months, given the circumstances. I would love to hear what your list is right now. Whether it's 3 games, 5 games, 10 games, whatever you want to offer in the comments below. I would love to hear that. Yeah, that's it. My favorite games right now. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks.